Let us go and look into the first example. So here what we are trying to learn is task clarity. When you write a prompt, make sure you write in a clear and purposeful prompt for either for your personal or for your work use. So the example what I used here is a short prompt. It's asking, hey, can you write a weekend itinerary for a family visiting Rotorua with kids? So what this particular prompt, through this prompt, what I'm trying to teach is the clear task definition. So the task here is write a weekend itinerary is the task, and then to improve the output, what I given additional context, like I am with my family visiting a particular place and we have kids, so that along with the itinerary, the model can incorporate and understand this is a family and with kids, so suggest certain things based on these elements. All right, let's go and copy this prompt, and we are going to use multiple models here. We are not doing any model comparison. That's not the objective here. All we are doing is we are learning the prompting techniques. Just for the first example, I'm just going to run this into different models. First, you have seen I've run it in the Copilot personal one. This is the Copilot work version. This is ChatGPT. This is Google Gemini, Meta AI, and DeepSeek. So when you run this pretty much everywhere, you're going to get almost similar output because the prompt is the same. You might see some word changes here and there. That's not what we are doing a comparison here, but I just want to show you how to prompt. You can basically pick the platform of choice which you like to use and basically go to the window and ask that question, and it is going to give you an itinerary. So if you look at the itinerary in the Copilot Personal, you can see that it already picked up the elements like kids and incorporating certain things which I can do with the kids and the family. So I have a itinerary based on Saturday and Sunday, some tasks or things I can do on morning, afternoon, and evening. These are like family friendly and kids friendly places, and this is quite good, and some recommendation towards the end. So if I go through the other models or other places, it's going to be almost similar. So you can see that I have day one and day two itinerary, things like that. One advantage of using the work one is we have enterprise data protection. With that, Microsoft have an agreement with the customers that whatever information you put in here to prompt is not used to train the model. And when we send this information out to get information for you, like latest things what you can do in Rotorova, things like that, we are not sending the whole prompt as it is. We are sending only the keywords. When we send that, that information is abstracted away from who the user asked and things like that. So that is not used to rank the website or use any sort of advertisement on your question and things like that. So if you go to ChatGPT, you get similar itinerary, breaking it down into different parts of the day. That is quite good. Gemini also gave you the same sort of a format. What I can do in a slightly different method apart from that, Meta did the same thing. So we are not going to hear, we are not going to actually sit and read through the output. That's not the objective. So I'm going to close the DeepSeek, Meta AI, Gemini, ChatGPT. Going forward, we are going to use this Copilot Personal and Copilot Work just for asking this question, because we are learning the basic prompting, right? We are not learning the comparison between these output. That's for a different video. Just for our reference for the future, I'm just going to copy this example and I'm going to put that in the presentation pack. So by the way, you can download this presentation pack by looking into the description box in the YouTube video, or if you're watching it in the website, I'm sure I will put a link where you can go and download extra resources. All right, so that's the task clarity. So if you provide a clear, clarified task to do to a model, it is going to respond back with real information. So I could have really asked, like, can I have a weekend itinerary for visiting Rotorua? I would have got an itinerary, but that wouldn't be specific to me because I'm planning to take my family and we have kids and things like that. So I would definitely want an itinerary with some tailored responses based on the context of what I'm asking. So that's what task clarity means. A well defined task improves the relevance of the output. The next concept we are learning is the role definition. So here what we are learning is assigning roles to shape the output, tone, and perspective on the output. So here, if you look at the prompt, you're mentioning things like as a travel guide. So you are kind of implying and telling the model to assume a role as a travel guide and recommend 3 hidden gems in New Zealand for adventure lovers. So what we are trying to learn here is not the 3 hidden gems in New Zealand that you can very much go and search. What we are trying to learn is introducing the concept called role definition, how it is going to impact the output. So I'm going to ask the question here in this window. As a travel guide, recommend 3 hidden gems in New Zealand for adventure lovers. All right, so now the output is pretty much straight to the point. It tells that we have certain breathtaking landscape and hidden gems in New Zealand, which I totally agree 100%. And 3 places where they recommend are these, and you have these citations here or reference link. You can click on this, that takes you to the page where you can actually go and read more about it. So if I ask the same question in the Copilot work, it is pretty much gonna exactly do the same thing. If, as you can see, that there are few slight tweaks or differences in terms of responses. It says that, hey, this is a gem and what are the things you can do, adventure highlights. In the personal one, we didn't get that adventure highlights. Yes, we did get some mention about that, but not in a clear, detailed, pointed way. So if you don't like a specific answer, you can always go back to the model and iterate on it. We have an example learning about what iteration is. So you don't have to take the first output as the final one. You can actually constantly go and ask further questions to further fine tune these output, things like that. So let's make a copy of this example and let's add it into the pack so we can always revisit this. So if you want to get access to this prompt to try out yourself, you can find the link to download this in the YouTube description or in the blog post. Let's look at the third example. The third example we are going to learn is audience awareness. So what are we going to learn here? So if you want to create a content based on different target audiences, it's really good way to include this audience awareness element to it. When you do that, that's going to cater the output towards a particular set of audience. So the prompt, what you're looking here is explain how the cloud works to a high school student interested in tech. So that's what I mean by audience awareness. So one, you're asking the model to explain how the cloud works. That is basic. You can tell that it is going to give you a lot of responses. But if you tweak it to tell that, hey, explain it to a student who is interested in tech, but the student is a high school student, so it is going to change the format in a simpler way a high school student can understand. So let's go and copy this prompt. I'm going to make a duplicate tab of it, and we are going to run 2 different prompt. Let's get rid of this agent. So in the first one, I'm going to click on new chat and I'm going to ask, explain how cloud works to a high school student interested in tech. And the next one, I'm going to ask, explain how cloud works. And let's ask the same question in 2 different prompts. The first one, we ask it to explain to a high school student. The next one is basic vague prompt, explain how the cloud works. So let's do a quick comparison here. The first one, it says that, hey, let's break down how cloud works in a simple and easy to understand way, and it gives me a good overview on what cloud is. If you look at the right hand side, it straight away get into complex topics like remote servers, store and manage processing, things like that. So if you're not quite technical, you are kind of lost here itself. So you can see that on the right hand side it's quite technical. On the left hand side it's way simpler, and it is taking step-by-step approach to explaining it. So without the cloud, you save your file on a USB stick. With the cloud, you save it in Google Drive or OneDrive. That is quite easy to understand. Here it starts talking about data center, internet access, scalability, redundancy, things like that. What I'm trying to tell here is there is nothing wrong with either of those. But if you are trying to learn cloud, but if you can't digest this sort of technical jargons and assumptions like that you already know about these things, it's good to introduce these concepts like audience awareness. Tell that who you are, what sort of a depth you have. Are you trying to teach somebody who is not familiar with these concepts? Do you want to explain this to kids? So it gives you these neat little hacks which you can use to modify the content output based on how you would like to receive. And if you look at the examples, it gives relatable examples on where it is stored, what it is run, applications like Netflix and Instagram, which a high school student would definitely understand. But if I start talking about IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, I don't think anybody would understand. And high school student, for no matter, would definitely switch their mind off and walk away. All right, so that's an example on audience awareness. I'm going to quickly take a photo of this and put it in our pack. So this kind of shows the kind of simple messages it uses to explain a particular concept. That is good. So the lesson what we learned here is output becomes simpler or more details depending on the reader. So if you change the prompt and tell that explain it to a university graduate, then this example would be totally different. The next one element what we are learning is purpose clarity. So here we are going to specify an intent to improve the message effectiveness. So if you look at the prompt, it says that write a short message to invite my team to a Friday knowledge sharing session. So let's go ahead and copy the prompt. So I can actually go and give more context to get a better result. I would consider this particular prompt as vague because it doesn't have context on what my team is, what do I do, and things like that. So let's see if we can run it so we can slowly build this up. I'm going to go back to the Copilot. I don't want the comparison this time. Let's go to a new chat and let's run this message. Write a short message to invite a team to a Friday knowledge sharing session. So we clearly mentioned the purpose here. The purpose clarity is: one, we want a short message. Second is to invite my team members for a Friday knowledge sharing session. These are the purpose, and it has some clarity in it, even though the context is vague. So because I mentioned it's a short message, it's clearly given me a super short message. Hey, you are invited and let's come together. This is the date, time, location. Very direct and super crisp information. I like it. So take a copy of this and use it in our example and paste it as an example in our output pack. All right, so what did we learn here? We learned about giving the clarity in terms of the purpose when you write this prompt. And this taught us stating the purpose. And the lesson we learned is knowing the intent ensures the tone and structure fit the goal. Let's look at the next example. Here we are learning about the tone and the tone adjustment. So modifying the tone to fit into either a casual, formal, professional, to cater different emotional needs. The example prompt what we are going to use is write a cheerful message announcing my promotion on LinkedIn. Again, I wouldn't say that this is a perfect prompt, but just because we are learning about tone adjustment, this definitely have the tonal element like cheerful message. That's the output we are going to emphasize here. But other than that, this definitely lack the context behind it, like what sort of a promotion, what sort of a job, things like that. If you supplement that additional information, you're going to get much better result. So let's copy the prompt and go back to Copilot, click on new chat. Here, run this. I'm going to say write a cheerful message announcing my promotion on LinkedIn. I got a response, but you can see that I clearly need to put in information like your new position, company name, and things like that. But if I had provided that context, answer or the output will include all of that details. Because I mentioned about cheerful message, it added some emojis, a nice catchy statement to gain attention, some party emojis, things like that. So that is quite good. So let's copy this, put it as an example.